Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, published in 1726, stands as a savage satire on human rationality and hypocrisy, masquerading as an innocent travelogue. Through the misadventures of Lemuel Gulliver, a seemingly ordinary surgeon and ship's captain, Swift unleashes a blistering critique of humanity's folly, pride, and vices. The novel exposes the absurdities of human nature, our vanity, political corruption, and societal shortcomings by thrusting Gulliver into fantastical realms that mirror the flaws of 18th-century Europe. Far from a mere adventure tale, it vexes the world as Swift intended, shaming readers out of their pretensions to rationality. This study focuses primarily on how Swift deploys these fictional journeys to dismantle illusions of human superiority, with particular emphasis on the political and social hypocrisies laid bare in the early voyages, setting the stage for a deeper dissection of his satirical genius. Born in 1667 in Dublin to English Protestant parents, Jonathan Swift navigated a life marked by sharp intellect, ecclesiastical ambition, and biting disillusionment. Educated at Trinity College, Dublin, he became Dean of St. Patrick's Cathedral in 1713, a position that fueled his Tory sympathies and contempt for Whig dominance. Swift's political stance was fiercely conservative. He championed Irish interests against English exploitation, as seen in his later pamphlet A Modest Proposal, while railing against the era's corruption. Writing amid the Enlightenment's optimistic faith in reason, epitomized by thinkers like Locke and Voltaire, Swift rejected such hubris. Gulliver's Travels emerged from this milieu, a product of his exile in Ireland after the Tory fall in 1714. Channeling personal frustration into universal scorn. By vexing the world, Swift aimed not just to entertain but to expose vices, using his satirist scalpel to shame humanity from its self-deception. Travel narratives, from Homer's Odyssey to Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, traditionally promised exotic discoveries and moral edification, blending fact with wonder to illuminate the traveler's and reader's worldview. Swift masterfully subverts this convention, transforming the genre into a mirror of absurdity. Gulliver's true travels to impossible lands, Lilliput, Brobdingnag, Laputa, and beyond, start as familiar voyage accounts, complete with nautical jargon and empirical observations. Yet Swift inverts the formula. Instead of elevating humanity, these journeys diminish it. The fantastical settings serve as distorting lenses, exaggerating European follies to reveal their inherent ridiculousness. This literary coup d'etat turns the travelogue from escapist fantasy into a weapon of social commentary, forcing readers to confront their own irrationality through Gulliver's widening perspective. In Lilliput, the land of 6-inch-tall humans, Swift crafts a microcosm of petty tyranny and bureaucratic farce, symbolizing the inflated egos of Europe's power brokers. Gulliver awakens bound by countless tiny threads, a metaphor for how grand ambitions ensnare the individual in trivial conflicts. The empire's absurd wars over the proper end of an egg, Begender's versus. Little Enders lampoon religious schisms, directly mocking the Anglican-Catholic divides and England's own sectarian strife. Political satire sharpens with the rivalry between the high heels Tories and low heels Whigs, their platforms wobbling on the diminutive stage. While Emperor Gulbasto Mommer and Emil's rope-dancing promotions satirize court favoritism under George I. Real history echoes loudly. Lilliput evokes Whig England post-1714, with rope dancers mimicking Robert Walpole's cronies. Through these vignettes, Swift derides human rationality as a sham, where hypocrisy reigns and true wisdom is Lilliputian in scale. In the colossal realm of Brobdingnag, Swift masterfully inverts Gulliver's perspective, transforming the traveler from a giant among miniatures into a minuscule speck amid titans. Here, the Brobdingnagians, humans scaled to mountainous proportions, expose the raw, grotesque underbelly of humanity through their sheer physicality. Gulliver, now dwarfed and vulnerable, beholds his own kind's skin as a landscape of blemishes, warts, moles, and pores magnified into hideous craters, symbolizing the moral corruptions that lurk beneath civilized veneers. This bodily grotesquerie serves as Swift's savage metaphor, linking physical intimidation with ethical decay. The giant's imposing forms underscore human arrogance and violence inherent in civilization, while their moral superiority, rooted in practical wisdom rather than abstract pride, highlights the triviality of Lilliputian squabbles. Through this lens, Swift dismantles the human-centric assumption of superiority, forcing readers to confront how societal norms mask fundamental flaws. Much like the Yahoo nature of physical repulsion and moral corruption later echoed in the tale, Swift's assault on Enlightenment zealotry intensifies in the floating island of Laputa and the mainland of Balnibarbi, where intellectuals drift in detached reverie, their heads tilted toward the heavens while ignoring earthly realities. Laputans, obsessed with abstract mathematics and astronomy, embody intellectual humility's dark inverse, arrogance masked as erudition. Their absurd projects extracting sunbeams from cucumbers, annihilating waste with gunpowder, or softening marble for pillows, parody the era's blind faith in science and progress. In Balnibarbi, the Grand Academy of Lagado amplifies this ridicule, showcasing practical experiments like converting ice to gunpowder or breeding naked sheep for wool, all futile endeavors that devastate agriculture and society. Swift critiques the over-reliance on objective discourse and rationality, questioning post-Enlightenment narratives of self-perfection. These scenes expose the inhumanity of pure reason divorced from emotion, mirroring modern excesses and warning against the violence of unchecked scientific hubris, where intellectual detachment breeds societal ruin. The pinnacle of Swift's relativism unfolds in the land of the Houyhnhnms, rational horses who govern through unerring logic, and their debased servants, the Yahoos, filthy, instinct-driven creatures that grotesquely mirror humanity. The Houyhnhnms society, an ideal of pure reason devoid of passion, vice, or war, contrasts starkly with the Yahoos' embodiment of greed, consumerism, anonymity, and primal urges. Physically repulsive and morally corrupt, the Yahoos represent fundamental human flaws, animals capable of reason yet enslaved by emotion. Swift employs this binary to probe philosophical depths. Can pure reason foster a truly humane world, or does it lead to cold inhumanity? Humans, in this view, are not rational paragons but flawed beings whose emotional complexity defies Enlightenment optimism. Through perspective shifts, Swift challenges faith in rationality and progress, urging intellectual humility. Our norms are relative, and Western self-congratulation obscures the violence and arrogance within. Gulliver's arc from proud Englishman to misanthropic recluse forms the satirical core, his unreliable narration evolving into a mirror for reader introspection. Initially brimming with patriotism, Gulliver's encounters erode his self-image. Lilliput reveals trivial conflicts, Brobdingnag bodily flaws, Laputa intellectual folly, and Houyhnhnms ultimate degradation. Prolonged immersion in the horse's rational paradise awakens horror at Yahoo humanity, his own kind, forcing a profound identity crisis. Rejecting reintegration, Gulliver prefers equine company, isolating himself in mental collapse. His distorted reality, a metafictional device critiquing power's information manipulation and post-truth ambiguity. This psychological descent underscores Swift's warnings. Human arrogance breeds violence, and exposure to relativism demands humility. Gulliver's unreliability prompts us to question our biases, affirming the unreconstructed satire's enduring call to dismantle illusions of superiority. In the shadow of the Enlightenment's gleaming edifice of reason, Jonathan Swift erected a towering countermonument of savage irony with Gulliver's Travels. While thinkers like John Locke championed empiricism and the tabula rasa mind, And François-Marie Arouet Voltaire wielded wit to dismantle superstition. Swift turned their tools against them, exposing the fragility of human rationality. Locke's belief in a natural principle of attraction binding society through affinities clashed with Swift's vision of egocentrism run amok, where reason served not universal progress but individual will to power, as Nietzsche might later echo. All emotions traced to a single drive, moral actions unmasked as immoral. Swift's anti-Enlightenment stance rejected positivism's methodology of resentment against global inquiry, favoring instead a Dinkelike acknowledgement of moral ambiguities and contradictions as reality's natural structure. Against Voltaire's optimistic rationalism, Swift deployed Chaucerian irony, nuanced, mobile, with narrators feigning naivete to expose moral failures, revealing Enlightenment ideals as classificatory systems of power, serving group interests and protecting the mediocre through imaginary preferences. In Lilliput and Brobdingnag, human rationality devolves into animalistic dehumanization, denying culture, morality, and logic, proving Swift's thesis: the more rational man claims to be, the more his exceptional nature wastes in societal pressures from contempt to ostracism. Swift's travelogue becomes a merciless scalpel dissecting political hypocrisy, with each island a grotesque mirror to real-world corruptions. In Lilliput and Blefuscu, the absurd war over egg-cracking, Bigendians versus Littleendians, parodies England and France's petty religious and territorial squabbles, where elite corruption exploits public resources for private gain. Rope dancing promotions and urination firefighting expose how political decisions link to self-interest, maintaining dictatorships via legitimacy or co-option. Brobdingnag's giants, with their realist pessimism, assuming rational egoism, highlight colonial weaknesses, immaturity, openness, and vulnerability breeding instability and factionalism. Swift satirizes abuse of power, where states fearing decisive action erode legitimacy, and authoritarian regimes centralize control through co-opted institutions, tightened censorship, and assertive propaganda. The politics of eternity generates insoluble fictional problems like foreign threats to sovereignty, detaching caricature from essence. Gulliver, the shill-like traveler, feigns loyalty while propaganda over-illuminates realities, as in geopolitical instabilities affecting oil markets, echoing Swift's era of factional strife. Economic justifications for hierarchy, maximizing individual power, managing disparities, crumble under Swift's travesty, degrading exalted rulers to heel-biting vermin, where powers will demand showing the better man as the more evil. Beneath the fantastical voyages lurks Swift's blistering assault on religious and moral hypocrisy, linking Lilliputian absurdities to England's sectarian gales. The egg-splitting schism mocks Anglican-Catholic divides, with exiles and blockheads symbolizing Khawarijism-like Puritan excesses or Jamaat Islamiyya zealotry, where rituals trump ethics. Moral pressure, emphatic rule, reminders, guilt, remorse, sustains ideologies as figurative clashes of irony, hyperbole, and antithesis, providing symbolic frames for identity quests. Swift desacralizes knowledge and ethics through parody, replacing sacred utterances with inferior ones, as in the Struldbrug's eternal decay, travestying immortality's promise. Dehumanization strips humans of refinement, reducing faith to animalistic contention, while lying as mischievous injury underscores theological irony, dissimulation of good points, saying the opposite via tone. Contemporary English society's religious conflicts, evident in biblical Jonathan's gift of God irony amid Saul's court, find echoes in Dinka ambiguities, where moral contradictions are reality's fabric. Swift's polemic debases exalted piety with laughter, exposing virtue ethics ideals as achievements for heroes or saints, yet hypocritically wielded as social status cudgels, breeding shame through privileged comparisons. Swift's mastery lies in his arsenal of irony and stylistic precision, transforming travel literature, a popular structuring agency for rationalism, into savage satire. The cold observer's viewpoint, Gulliver's deadpan narration, feigns naivete like Chaucerian irony, exposing failures through mobile moral criticism. Exaggeration and caricature amplify traits for comic pleasure, faithfulness in mimicry delights. Undiminished by reality's falsification, while paradox and travesty degrade the exalted, vast world descriptions shrink single realms, fostering perspective via Jungian symbols of latent potential. Irony, per the Theological Dictionary, dissimulates virtues signaled by tone, close to joking's opposite meanings. Language's problematic nature fuels illusion, abnormal perceptions lacking constancy, rationalized in Occidental types. Overstatement parodies polemic ends, with adornments symbolizing aesthetic hypocrisies. This reinforces satire's desacralization, where laughter debases mind and ethics, as in Gertrude Stein's Amusing Nonsense. Behavioral activation against apathy mirrors Gulliver's futile quests, urging value-based action per ACT. Yet Swift's pessimism, diminishing calendar pages, contrasts activist archiving, his irony a behavioral antidote to perfectionism's illusions. Demanding good enough amid human folly. In the labyrinthine corridors of contemporary academia, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels endures as a multifaceted prism, refracting the follies of human rationality through ever-evolving theoretical lenses. Modern scholars, drawing from the knowledge base's rich tapestry of critical paradigms, reframe the novel not merely as a travelogue of whimsy, but as a savage indictment of humanity's pretensions. From a neo-Marxian vantage, influenced by George Lukács's concepts of reification and false consciousness, Gulliver's encounters expose the ideological distortions permeating modern society, where humans, like the diminutive Lilliputians or the brutish Yahoos, embody commodified relations alienated from their true essence. Echoing Marx's economic and philosophically manuscripts of 1844. Critical theory, as articulated by Eugen Habermas and Axel Honneth, illuminates the work's assault on rationalization. The Laputans' obsessive calculations parody the efficiency-driven social action that hollows out genuine communication and recognition, fostering oppression masked as progress. Post-structuralist and deconstructive readings, inspired by Derrida, unravel the text's unstable meanings, revealing how Swift's allegory defers fixed interpretations, inviting readers to confront the shifting subjectivity of identity formation amid power structures Mitchell Foucault would later dissect. Pessimistic humanism surges forth in interpretations viewing the Houyhnhnms' equine rationality as an unattainable ideal. Humbling human pride and critiquing Enlightenment optimism, Kant's rational autonomy devolves into Swiftian absurdity. Post-colonial lenses savage the colonial conceits of racial superiority, with Gulliver's voyages mirroring imperial hubris and the thymos-fueled nationalism critiqued in the KB. Psychoanalytic infusions, akin to Slavoj Žižek's Marxist-Freudian hybrids, probe the Yahoos as primal id unleashed, laying bare cultural ideologies distorting reality. These rereadings transform Swift's satire into a dialectical mirror of social totality, where phenomena like social stratification and hegemony, per Gramsci, perpetually invite new scrutiny, making the familiar grotesquely strange. Upon its 1726 publication, Gulliver's Travels ignited an inferno of reception, selling out its first edition in a week and over 10,000 copies within 3 weeks, a testament to its visceral grip on the public imagination. Yet this triumph courted peril. The book's unsparing barbs at monarchy, religion, and human nature prompted bans in Ireland and accusations of treason, rendering it a frequent target for censorship as a subversive goldmine. Swift's ironic travelogue form, blending satire with moral appeals, blurred lines between entertainment and indictment. Humbling pride while enacting ideological resistance akin to Virginia Woolf's narrative strategies. Its influence ripples through literature and philosophy, seeding a legacy of cultural critique. Matthew Arnold's essays in criticism echoes Swift's call for disinterested endeavor in criticism, while John Stuart Mill's On Liberty grapples with the freedoms Swift lampooned. From Plato's Republic to Rousseau's Discourse on the Arts and Sciences, Swift's work amplifies dialectics of society and economy. Prefiguring Marxist literary criticisms focus on ideological content and structural metonyms of social hierarchy. In philosophy, it haunts Enlightenment debates, critiquing positivism, deceitful priests, and state despotism. Maimonides' Guide for the Perplexed finds a satirical shadow in its allegorical senses, literal, moral, anagogical, urging perpetual reinterpretation. Fordism's rationalized efficiencies find their absurd twin in Laputa, influencing post-Fordist analyses. Across centuries, Swift's irony signals disbelief in humanistic banalities, fueling literacy crises and speculation's playful detachment from reality. Swift's magnum opus, for all its brilliance, stirs contentious tempests, with detractors charging it with excessive misanthropy, a venomous hatred of humanity masquerading as rationality's exposé. Critics decry Gulliver's final Yahoo-like degeneration as overreach, embodying an irrational biophobia that forsakes redemptive humanism. Contrasting Aristotle's ethics or Rawls's pleas for respecting decent societies. The KB highlights debates on Swift's alleged misogyny, where female portrayals, from Brobdingnagian coarseness to Yahoo lust, betray gender biases amid broader social identity critiques of race, ethnicity, and sexuality. Overstated pessimism clashes with Habermas's optimistic rationalization and communication, while Houyhnhnms' recognition theory faults the novel's denial of intersubjective struggles for identity. Economic determinism shadows Marxian appropriations, yet Swift evades it. Wielding satire to humble Enlightenment conceits without tidy dialectics, analytical Marxism would critique such totality. Relativism accusations hound its postmodern openness, where multiple reader interpretations destabilize meaning per post-structuralism. Nationalism as irrational recognition from thymos amplifies Gulliver's voyages as anti-colonial harbingers. Yet some see colonial complicity in its conceits. These flashpoints ironies edge risking nihilism, personal emotion driving misanthropic expression underscore Swift's enduring provocation. Demanding self-assessment amid the KB's epistemology of critique. Swift's scalpel-sharp satire distinguishes itself through Gulliver's Travel's unrelenting inversion of scale and rationality. Outstripping kin like Voltaire's Candide, 1759, which skewers Leibnizian optimism via Cunégonde's picaresque woes but tempers bile with philosophical levity, lacking Swift's visceral misanthropy, or Yahoo Houyhnhnms dialectic. Where Voltaire's narrative form moralizes probabilistically, Swift's allegorical machinery, echoing Thomas More's Utopia, 1516, erects dystopian mirrors to social stratification. More's communal ideal humbles pride via rational communism. Yet Swift detonates it with Laputan absurdities and Lilliputian pettiness, amplifying Marxist hegemony critiques absent in More's proto-socialism. Voltaire employs irony for Enlightenment moral appeals, critiquing arts and sciences à la Rousseau. But Swift's deconstructive play, making the familiar monstrous, plumbs deeper into reification and false consciousness, prefiguring Zizek'ian psychoanalysis. More's speculative detachment fosters utopian guessing, Swift's grounds it in savage totality. Blending satire's self-assessment with cultural critique's power dissections. Against these, Swift buoys hypocrisy's exposure, Candide's Pangloss parodies causality. But Gulliver's equine mentors eviscerate human subjectivity itself. This comparative sheen elevates Swift's uniqueness, his work as metonym of distorted modernity, urging dialectical awakening beyond contemporaries' bounds. In Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, the Laputans embody a savage satire on humanity's blind faith in reason and science. Floating in their aerial island while lost in abstract calculations, ignoring the tangible world below. Swift's warning resonates eerily in our modern society, where technology-centrism and data omnipotence reign supreme. Consider how human thinking, reliant on analogies, metaphors, and intuition, hallmarks of creativity, clashes with this rationalistic fervor. Irrationality creeps into our vaunted rationality, yielding a less enchanted, less meaningful world stripped of wonder. Humans remain susceptible to perceptual illusions, pseudo-psychic claims, and false memories, undermining the data-driven utopias we chase. Scientific attitudes demand curiosity, skepticism, and humility, rigorously tested through observation and analysis. Yet our tech obsession often bypasses these for untested algorithms. Rational choice models presume transitive preferences and steadfast plans, but real humans, as cognitive misers, fail to reason effectively even with knowledge and skills at hand, due to limited processing capacity, differing goals, or ignorance of their own cognitive incompetence. Swift's Laputans, rationalizing their detachment, mirror our data all-knowing culture, where thinking about money erodes empathy, reducing the tendency to adopt others' perspectives. Modernization's triumphs dangle materially and psychologically unachievable goals, echoing Swift's critique of reason's hollow promises. Swift's Yahoo, those brutish, vice-ridden creatures in the land of the Houyhnhnms, strip humanity bare, revealing instincts, biases, and collective madness that modern psychology illuminates with unflinching precision. Vice, contrary to man's nature as a rational animal, drives the Yahoos' savagery, aligning with humanistic existential emphases on self-actualization and healthy choices, which humans so often forsake. The fundamental attribution error pervades their and our behavior, overestimating personality's role while underestimating situational factors. Human nature manifests in universal behaviors, feeling reality, representing repetition. Engaging in social activities, yet devolves into Yahoo-like folly through deficient reasoning and psychodynamic pitfalls. Like Freud's unempirical, post hoc interpretations lacking evidence. Dreams, symbolizing food unavailability, intercourse, guilt, or judgment, underscore instinctual undercurrents Swift mocks. As cognitive misers, humans default to intuition over logic, fostering biases and group hysteria. Irony in Swift's tale signals disbelief in language's adequacy to capture this chaos. The human spirit's development, society's true purpose, withers under such impulses, much like Yahoos enslaved by base drives. Blind to reason's unique capacity, logos, shared with the divine. Synthesizing these threads, Gulliver's Travels delivers a searing indictment of reason's misuse and humanity's hypocrisy. Unmasked through Travelogue guise. Rationalization, uniquely Occidental, falters against perceptual flaws, false memories, and situational blindness. Transforming the scientific culture, expansive, not restrictive, into a tool of self-deception. Swift skewers the irony of rational humans as Yahoos, prone to cognitive incompetence and collective folly. Where autocratic governance or state actors with self-interested decisions mimic Houyhnhnm order but breed vice. Historical anthropological study reveals how ideas once seemed true, enriching our grasp of this hypocrisy. Imitation of institutions drives innovation yet often fails, as in Soviet building projects symbolizing illusory progress. The core of the cosmos shines through humanity's flawed lens, yet our reason, deficient and prideful, enchants nothing. Swift's ultimate message, beware reason's perversion into arrogance, for humans, rational animals by nature, Court meaninglessness when hypocrisy eclipses humility, skepticism, and awareness of our intuitive, biased core.